We are live streaming on this Friday as we close out the NHL regular season 2021. Nick Kypreos here, Real Kyper at Noon Show. Doug Maclean on standby. Finally, we've got our playoff matches. 8 games will kick off next week. Thank goodness. Was that a long 56 games? We know there's a couple of teams that need to close out the regular season for optics, including Vancouver and Calgary, but we've got our matchups. And as the thumbnail showed you, we're going to get into a few of them, including Boston and Washington, something that I think we kind of envisioned right at the beginning. The moment we heard about Chara going to the Washington Capitals, didn't we talk about these guys match up in the playoffs? Did we expect it in the first round? No. So there's where we're going to kind of kick things off. But before that, I'll bring in Doug Maclean out of Florida. I'm kind of pissed off at myself because we went with the focus on the thumbnail of a tough series. Is it the toughest? Maybe Tampa and Florida might think otherwise, but I went with Boston and Washington, and now I'm kind of upset, Mac, that I didn't go with Eugene Melnyk on the thumbnail. Of course, Eugene, story broke today that he took a super yacht vacation during the pandemic, and it went horribly wrong, Mac. $500,000 for a week on a boat leads to a $10 million lawsuit, Mac. Eugene should have been on our thumbnail.
Like, it doesn't end with this guy. It just doesn't end with this guy. Like, who goes on a cruise in the Caribbean with your family and closest friends and you fight with the captain of the ship? Like, who does that? That's like getting on a private jet and fighting with the pilot.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. I just think that you've got to let them do their jobs, Mac, especially when you're in rough seas.
And we get word that it was violent, vomiting, and odorous captain, Mac.
Yes.
How many times behind a bench did you have to deal with an odorous assistant coach or a trainer or a player?
No, but the closest I came to going on a boat cruise was I was at this dinner party, and my friend introduced me. He said, "Hey, I've got a yacht, and we're going to go to the Bahamas. And like you to join us." So I said, "Well, look, I'd like to go, and I'd like to help with the fuel cost." And my buddy poked me, and he said, "Don't say that. It's $22,000 to fill the tank." So I was as close as I got to the cruise, was the Christmas party.
Well, if Eugene
Melnyk... So Eugene, I guess he wants some of the fuel costs back.
I think he wants a lot back besides the fuel. Even the cheese tray. He wants it all.
Did you guys see the handwritten note he wrote, or maybe his representatives wrote in despite of this lawsuit?
No.
So on January 1st of this year, he said, "Dear Dream Crew, thank you so much for an amazing trip. It was an expensive and an expense I'm sure that people will never forget. The first few days we spent was a dream. It was action-packed, yet relaxing." Then he goes on to say, "New Year's was a great time. The decorations were absolutely gorgeous. All the best, the Melnyk Group."
And then he sued them for $10 million.
That's after.
Yeah, this is on June. It's post-dated. It's on screen right now for all the fine listeners. It's written in a little bit of a cursive penmanship, but January 1st, 2021.
Oh, man.
So here you are at the end of the season, and Ottawa goes on an amazing run to close it out. And that's the story of the Ottawa Senators today. The hits just keep on coming, Mac.
I feel bad, but what do you do? It's just not a smart thing to fight with captains,
Well, and he's
including when Brady Tkachuk becomes his captain.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest he fight with him either.
Should Daniel Alfredson call up the boat captain and go, I know how
I've
you
lived
feel.
No, but anybody that's worked for him could call up the boat captain and say, I've lived it. I've lived it.
I've lived it. Well, that was a funny one that we ended up kind of having a chuckle over this morning, Mac. But if we go into last night, 3 games, watching St. Louis come back with 7 unanswered goals against Minnesota, Calgary and Van, the throwaway, and Colorado, Mac, wins the President's Trophy. And did they pick the pocket out of the Vegas Golden Knights here? How does Vegas lose this at the very end?
You know what? It's unfortunate. You're playing at the end of the year, the biggest game of the year, and you're playing Colorado. And because of injuries and cap issues, you can only dress 15 skaters.
Mac, I've never heard of that before. I've heard 17, maybe 16, but come on, losing a quarter of your roster here,
and you lose 2-1, and it costs you essentially the President's Trophy because they only needed 1 point to clinch, and they lose it because of that one game and 15 skaters. Now, I don't know if that was the reason they lost it, but it sure as hell didn't help. Not only that, but you had to play Pietrangelo 29 minutes. You play Theodore 29 minutes. These are guys that you need rested for the playoffs because it's going to be a tough series against Minnesota. So not a good way to end cap. Now I understand. I know it's cap problems, and we've talked about their cap problems all year because of the 2 goalies. But then you get some unfortunate injuries to Pacioretty and company, and you're scrambling. And I saw Kelly McCrimmon being quoted saying, hey, we got to get to the playoffs, and then we're okay. Well, yeah, but now, does home ice really matter? Does the President's Trophy matter? Does home ice matter? Well, if you can get fans in your building sooner than later, it sure does matter.
So, pandemic aside, limited crowd aside, what is your overall feeling with home ice advantage? How did you always feel about it? Are you just one game away from losing it after you put your foot to the pedal here? Is Vegas really that pissed off that they lost it, Mac? But you're the second best team, and you can't even have home ice advantage potentially in the second round. That's the unfortunate part.
That's the unfortunate part, is losing the home ice. Whether you believe it's the end all and be all at playoff time, maybe it isn't, but it's certainly nice to have it. It's nice to start at home so that you can get a jump in the series, to get a lead in the series. We know how important that is at playoff time. It's just, and how often do you get to win the President's Trophy as the best team in the NHL? So does it mean as much this year? Maybe not, because it's such an unbalanced schedule just within your own division. But anyway, it's just what it is weird because of whether it was about the President's Trophy or not. When you can only dress 15 skaters as an NHL, that's risking injury. That's not smart. That is not smart to get in that situation. But when you want to live on the edge with respect to the cap, you're going to get in trouble. And they've been on the edge all year because of the cap.
It's one thing if you've gone through the last few years battling like Tampa Bay Lightning, right? Where they've won their top trophies for regular season and then losing in the first round.
Yeah.
But this would have meant a lot more to Vegas than it would probably any other team. Again, to be such a young, brand new organization and to keep winning these type of awards and hanging a President's Trophy banner in your arena, that would have been a big deal, Mac.
I agree. It's a big deal. I just think it's, but you play on the edge and you get burnt. And the NHL would get a kick out of this. They don't like the fact you're only dressing 15 players, but they would say, okay, you want to play with fire, you get burnt. And that's the NHL. There's always been threats and warnings about, hey, if you want to play close, somebody's going to get caught. Well, look, Nick, if you could dress 18, that's another thing. or 17 or whatever. But when you got to dress 15 skaters,
15. I've never seen that before.
That is talking American Hockey League lineup in tough situations. And you've been there and saw how tough that was to play with 3 lines.
It's not a good look optically that you're one of the top teams in the NHL in the world. You're a top hockey team in the world, and you cannot dress 4 guys. That's just it's shocking, and it's a bad look. It's not only a bad look on Vegas, it's just a bad look in the league as general, Mac.
Yep. I agree.
Let alone you have fans. You have fans that have pride, and they're at the rink right now. They're not full capacity, but you still paid money to go see something that is offered at a 25% discount. It's not good. Not a good look.
Should have had Millard and Lawless on today to discuss what happened here.
No, they should have dressed them. I mean, they're doing everything else for them. Might as well dress them.
But there's no value in having 3 goalies, and Millard would only dress as a goalie. Lawless, I'm not sure what he would dress as, but we're back to Halloween costumes again here on the show.
All right, we know that Vegas, because of it, will see the Minnesota Wild. We'll get into that a little later, including how Minnie's been able to kind of dominate Vegas, Mac. Not only this season, but over the course of 3 years now. So we'll talk about that. But going back to our thumbnail, Boston and Washington, Mac. This one for me is going to be the most fun I think I can watch, because we can easily look at both these teams and say they're Stanley Cup contenders. If they went to a final or won the cup, we wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, this is a series, especially when you look at how the Bruins have responded since the trade deadline. The Caps have been good all year. This is a heck of a series. It really is. And both teams are capable of winning this series. It is a hard-fought first-round decision,
Both teams feeling good too, Mac. It's
feeling good about their
one
games.
Might be underachieving a little bit, and you wonder who's going to show up. But both these teams come in with some real jam here.
The health question is always there. What is going on with a guy like Ovi, who did come back and said he felt good. He felt good. He should be okay.
I don't question that one, Mac. He said 100%, and I think the rest may have helped them a lot.
But yeah, and I think it was really smart. Then you got Kuznetsov and the goaltending, Samsonov, both out with COVID-related situations. I
don't think Samsonov comes back. If he does, probably late in the series. Mm-hmm. And Kuznetsov, if he doesn't start game 1, he should be in for 2 or 3.
Right. So, you know what? You've got 2 teams with great depth up front. The Hall pickup, he's added points there. It's changed the look of the Bruins. They have been looking for a winger for a couple of years to play with Krejci. DeBrusk tried to get it done there, but the Craig Smith addition from Nashville in the offseason, along with Hall, finally gives him a bona fide second line, because Krejci is one of the best dishers in the game. He makes plays. He's the best. This guy, when has Hall had a centerman as good as Krejci as far as dishing the puck and using Hall's speed, and a grinder like Smith who has good speed and is a smart player? I really like that second line. And that goes...
Craig Smith's come on really in the last 20, 25 games. His scoring has been up. Not that he was bad to start with the Boston Bruins, but he's gone to another level.
And then you go to the third line and you say, okay, you've got Coyle, a big, strong guy in the wing. I'd like him to be a little more physical. You got Corrali in the middle, who's had great playoffs in the past. And you've got Ritchie on the wing, a big body guy who can score. So that's a real good third matchup line. And then you've got DeBrusk, Wagner, Lazar as a fourth line. I kind of like their look. And then you look at the Caps and you say, well, they're pretty strong up front too.
No question. So the big question for Boston coming into this season, Mac, was the loss of Krug and Chara. And we discussed that at great length at the beginning of the season. And now we look at a blue line, top pairing, McAvoy and Grzelcyk.
Yeah.
But not necessarily the pair that we may see in the defensive zone with a critical face-off. So who shuts down Ovi? Who shuts down Backstrom? Is it McAvoy and?
Well, you got Carlo there, and he had the tough injury, but Carlo is a real important guy for them. McAvoy, as you said, is a real important guy. Lauzon has played pretty well for them. Sort of caught me off guard. He sort of disappeared. He was in the minors for a couple of years, but he came in this year and he gave them some real solid minutes. So he's fit in there pretty well. Grzelcyk, you're right. He can get it done. I mean, their blue line has played better than I thought it would. I'm surprised, but I'll tell you, the difference for their blue line for me will be Tuukka Rask has been unbelievable. There was a lot of questions about Tuukka going into the season. This guy has finished strong and has been real good. So if you take the combination of the lack of real depth on the blue line, they could have, Riley's been a good pickup for them. He's a one-pass guy, gets the puck out of his zone, finds the puck, gets the puck through to the net, but not a high-profile blue line. But Rask, I think, gives them an edge in goal. I really do.
Well, I don't have the numbers. I'm not sure if it's a stellar record against Washington for Tuukka, but certainly he's going to have to get out of the gate real early, real strong here for the Boston Bruins. One team's going home very disappointed after this series, Mac.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at their blue line with Carlson, with Orlov. I mean, you gotta, Dylan's there, Chara, Jensen. It's a pretty experienced blue line in Washington. Chara will be really interesting to watch. I know he's in the third pair a lot of the time, but he will bother the Bruins.
And who's the pair there that have to shut down the best left winger maybe in the NHL and Brad Marchand and company here?
Well, it's got to be Carlson and
Carlson and Orlov.
That's got to be the top pair, and then they're going to come often. I mean, Cassidy uses that line much to the detriment the last couple of years where they've had to play so much because Krejci was injured or the second line had disappeared. They've got to get the second line so that they can affect the matchups with Washington's blue line. If you've got two lines going and you got the Corrali line that can go head-to-head with anybody, I mean, they can go head-to-head with Backstrom, that third line. They can go head-to-head with Eller. They can go head-to-head with whoever on that Washington side. So matchup-wise, I like the Bruins' chances. I'm a little nervous about their back end like you are, but I think Rask should be a difference maker in goal.
TJ Oshie's another one, Mac, that we don't know where the future lies.
Yeah.
He did skate the other day on his own. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for game one, but
that's a concern because that thins
thins
him out. That thins him out up front. Then you got a Raffle there. You got a Sheary that has to move up in the lineup.
Sprong's been good.
Sprong's been good. You don't know about Wilson. What's Wilson's health right now?
I think he's fine. He's good.
He's fine.
Yeah.
So that's, he's going to be a real important guy. You still like the Caps. They're a hell of a team. I mean, I think it's a matchup that could go either way. I would not want to predict this one. I just think the Bruins goaltending, their both power plays have been terrific. Both score 5-on-5. Both can play physical. You're right. It's got a chance to be a heck of a series.
I'm going to ask you to pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I know where you're going. I just want to know how many games.
I'm going to pick the Bruins in 6. I mean, I picked the Bruins to be the best team in the division at the start of the year, so I pretty well have to stay with them, don't I? I know they got edged out, but
I would be so pissed off at you if you bailed.
And of course, you picked Washington to finish first, didn't you?
I'm going with Washington in 7.
Well, you have to because you have a hockey card with your in a Caps uniform. You know? So you have to pick them.
I like the revenge of Chara in this one.
Oh yeah, you know what? It's look, he's been a great story. A $750,000 defenseman. And from what I've been told, Chara likes his money. He not happy playing. I mean, he's happy because he's still in the league and he's such a quality guy. I know this. I really believe this. The Bruins have desperately missed Chara in the dressing room. I'm telling you that. And Bergeron is a great leader. Marchand is great with the young kids. I've heard that forever. But they really miss Chara.
How about, Mac, when we talk also about the Boston Bruins, and there's the real feel that they've taken this roster and they've ran the core on it on a great run. And for good reason, they feel like there's another year, possibly 2, out of the Boston Bruins and this core. But the pressure to win now, especially on a guy like Bruce Cassidy, who's had the team for a few years now. And I'm not here to suggest that his job's in jeopardy, but a first round would make people really look at the Boston Bruins and say, it ran its course, it's over, and now we got to start thinking about the future. Do you agree with that? And I include Bruce Cassidy in the mix here. If they lose in the first round, I see this team having a major change in philosophy coming up.
Well, I think it's a little bit the same with Washington, is it not? I mean, can they afford to lose in the first round with the makeup of their team? So, you know, it's a little bit the same, except...
Well, they're not going to fire their head coach.
Here's the difference. A big decision for Sweeney and Neely is, what do you do with Taylor Hall? If you're talking and they lose in the first round and they've got to start to focus on what they're going to do to retool this team, does that send a message that Taylor Hall should be signed on a long-term deal? That's a big
Taylor
decision.
Hall is what? He's 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the Boston Bruins, Mac, and we know where they're long on the tooth, and I include Patrice Bergeron, Krejci. There's your big issue there, because I think you can look around the team and still see some great parts,
right?
And we know that, you know, and even when you factor out Tuukka Rask out there and what Swayman's been able to do, Mac, to say this guy is next generation. He's our next up.
Yeah,
he's been able to do that. So outside of Bergeron and Krejci, those are huge holes that they don't necessarily have top centermen coming in the wings here.
Listen, Krejci is finished. His deal's up, and there's some conversation he may go back to Czech that he may not even play next year. So what? And they don't like DeBrus. They're mad at him all the time, and he's fallen to the fourth line and was on the trade block. They got Studnicka, kid at Kitchener, that is a top prospect for them. They've got Frederick, who was I think a late first-round pick or an early second-round pick, a kid coming. He's a tough kid who plays hard. He's another one of their youngsters. They got a kid, Curtis Hall, who was on the World Junior team, and he's a first-year, just come out of Yale, first-year kid in province, 6'3", 6'4" guy, but he's a little ways away. They're thin. I think they're thin. And this is, as you said, hit the nail on the head. This is a monumental year in the playoffs for this team. Yeah, it really is.
You know, and I don't like to talk about people losing their jobs, but I could see a coaching change if Boston was to lose in the first round.
Jeremy
and Cassidy's
Jacobs
had a great run there, Mac. I will say this. He's proven himself to be a top coach. But the thing with Cassidy is when you talk about those hardcore coaches who ride players hard, there's a shelf life.
And he's one of them.
And he is one of them, without a doubt. And I like him. I think he's done a terrific job. But I
like him too.
They have a shelf life.
But and when Chera was there, there was some deflecting going on, and Bergeron helped. But this guy is hard on his players, and that's great. That's fine, and I respect that. But you have to produce. You have to win. And they lost last year to Tampa. They weren't good enough. They were thin because of injuries. They were banged up. They're pretty well healthy right now. This is as good, and they made the big splash with Hall and Riley. Not so much Riley, but it was a decent pickup for me. And the big splash with Hall, although they got him for a reasonable price. So this is a pressure series for the Bruins. And for Washington, with Ovi's situation at his age and where they're headed, Kuznetsov is always a question there. What the hell's going on with this guy? All the time you wonder. He was so damn good when they won the Cup. He could have been the Conn Smythe winner when he won the Cup. And now, it's always what's going on?
I'll be very surprised if Kuznetsov is a Washington Capital next year.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some issues there. Their blue line, you love Carlson, you love Orlov. And after that, you're saying Jensen, Van Riemsdyk, Chera, Dillon, Schultz, pretty thin after 2 or 3 guys,
Yeah. Well, lots of question marks.
Yeah, but this is the making of, I think, a really great playoff hockey series with superstars, with physicality, with toughness, with goaltending. Washington's still a bit of a concerning goal. I mean, Samsonov, we don't know where he is. The kid's been good. He's been good. But is he as good as Rask? I'm not sure of that.
2021 NHL playoffs kick off with the Washington Capitals against the Boston Bruins Saturday night, Mac. And then we go into Sunday. It's the NBC show for the National Hockey League, and this would be their last playoff before they turn the keys over to Turner and ESPN. I always liked NBC the last 10 years, Mac, but you just gotta wonder how they're feeling going into these last few months here. But we'll see how it goes. But it kicks off on NBC down in the States. Islanders and Pitt at noon, Mini in Vegas at 3, and then Tampa and Florida at 7:30. So let's kick it off with the Islanders and Pitt, Mac.
What's great is I could give a rat's ass about NBC or TNT or any of them. It's kind of fun.
Don't say that when you're going to be interviewing for a job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. The only job I'll be interviewing is trying to get across the border to PEI. They're interviewing me there.
Just tell them.
Who are we talking about?
They're going to say, you're Doug Maclean from the Real Kyper at Noon show.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Did we think at the beginning of the year Pitt would be the favorite in this series? I had the Islanders. I don't think you had the Islanders, but I've admittedly told you I've embarrassed myself with Pitt not thinking that they could make the playoffs this year.
I had Pitt making the playoffs strictly because of Sid. I really did, strictly because of Sid. And it turned out that I didn't think Sid would get this huge help of Brian Burke helping him. I didn't expect that.
Did you see?
But Sid, I knew Sid would get them in.
Brian,
I had the Islanders out. What was I thinking about? But maybe I was thinking they were going to have this much trouble scoring all year.
Did you see?
And they damn well didn't get in by much. But
did you see our good friend on social media teaching people how to do a tie-up? Did you see that?
I did. Yeah.
Is
that new? Did that just come out, or was that an old clip?
I don't know, but
did he do that?
We got to start getting you to do that sort of stuff.
You know what? It's funny. Since the day I walked out of the Sportsnet building, I have not had a tie on. Isn't that amazing? Not had a tie on.
Yeah.
Since I walked out of that building.
I guess Brian isn't as busy as he made it out to us that he was.
Doing a tie commercial.
Yeah, doing now how to tie a tie. Anyways, he looks great. I'm sure he's feeling great.
Their record has been, since the change in management, their record has been unbelievable. And I don't care, look, the Carter pickup was a great pickup for them. And give Hextall full marks for that one. And you know what? Jari, I didn't think was going to be good enough. He and DeSmith have found a way. We were questioning Letang, and he's played unbelievable lately. Dumoulin has been terrific for them. He's a horse back there. I'm worried that the Islanders, I don't know if the Islanders can score, Nick. I just don't know if the Islanders can score.
Mac, I'll stick with Pittsburgh right now. And we know top lines or top duels in the NHL, but right now, Crosby, Gensel, and Rust are as good as anyone out there. Like that line probably hasn't been given enough credit, and maybe that's just the mass of the media that's kind of controlled up here in Canada with the McDavid and Austin Matthews show.
Yep.
But holy shit, man, has that line been good?
They have been. They really have been, and it's every night for them. Every night they've got Crosby as the go-to guy. They got Gensel, who has got great hockey sense. You got Rust, who's got good speed. They can score. They can play against other teams' good lines. They are, but it all goes around. I mean, I love Gensel, and he's a hockey family out of Minnesota, like Rust. But Sid's the engine. He's the engine, and he continues to be the engine, despite, like, this guy is 33 years of age. Is he 33? And he's been in the league since he was 18. I mean, this guy just continually gets it done. I mean, I have so much respect for this kid. It's unbelievable. Not a kid anymore.
Can Barry Trotz do what he does best and just slow this team down? This is one of the fastest teams in the league.
Barry is really caught here in a little bit of a quandary. Like, it's one thing to slow a team down like Pittsburgh, and I think they can do that. But is he also slowing down his offense? Because Barry has got to find a way to get some scoring out of this team. They are dreadful right now. I mean, they cannot score. So what does Trotzy do if you're going in with a shutdown mentality, which they always do, defense first? But they got to open it up a little bit to be able to score some goals, because Pittsburgh will score.
Yeah, it really, I think, stems from that net front presence of Anders Lee.
Yeah,
that's when it really sunk. And we know Palmieri was a big pickup, but I don't know whether or not.
Not close.
Lou Lamoriello's watching from the press box and going, I missed on Taylor Hall.
I don't know about that. I mean, he needs some scoring.
When you consider the price, wasn't very expensive for Boston.
It wasn't.
I'm just wondering now, at least Anders Lee again, to just go back on that guy and what a
monumental
horse he's
loss
been for them.
Yeah.
And it just,
and also their blue line became a little thinner when they had to make the move with Colorado,
Yeah.
Taves, was it? That was. I mean, you still like their blue line, but it's not as good.
Pelican and Pulak, Leddy, Mayfield,
Dobson's a kid, pretty good blue line, but
pretty good.
But Taves is a bit of a loss because he's a veteran guy that you love to have this time of year. And I mean, I thought it was a great pickup by Colorado to shore up their back end a little bit. But they've got all kinds of flash there, but he's a good, solid guy. So
the only chance the Islanders have is Varlamov versus Jari or DeSmith. That's it. And he's
100%.
He's had 100%. A great season, Mac. He's had a really good season.
That is going to be a real factor. And Jari goes in with, he's had a good year. There's still questions about him. Maybe there shouldn't be with the way he's performed, but that's to me that you're right on that. And Barzal, Crosby, interesting matchup up front. Malkin, where's he? Carter has been a big plus, that third line with Carter, McCann. I mean, it's been a good, giving them a little more depth at scoring. And you know Carter is going to be excited. Would you want Carter for 82 games? Probably not at this stage in his career. But you sure as hell want him for a playoff series with the way this guy has won and with his talent. And he can still skate.
When it comes to foot soldiers, Mac, Teddy Bluger, shorthanded, kills penalties, good role player. Tanev,
yeah,
great. But on the other side, you know, they've gotten so much out of Cizikas, Matt Martin,
Clutterbuck.
Not sure what his status is. Who do you give the advantage to? With the
I'm giving Pittsburgh the edge to win this series. I mean, they're coming off with it. You know, Pittsburgh, not a good playoff last year. You know, it's this. I think Pittsburgh wins this series because of the fact the Islanders have such a tough time scoring.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So I'll take the Pens in 6.
Yeah, I don't
disagree. Comfortable with that?
I'm very comfortable with it. I'm not going to bet it, but I'm comfortable with it.
Speaking of betting, here's an interesting one. Most points in the series, Malkin or Josh Bailey? Malkin is a -195 favorite. Josh Bailey +140.
Giving it to Malkin.
Well, Malkin is well rested. I don't know what he ended up missing, 24 games. He should.
The only guy that's more rested than Malkin.
He's not even close right now to where he needs to be.
Malkin,
that I will say.
Malkin should be more rested than I am. And all I've done is play golf a couple days a week. Like, seriously. What has he done, this guy, Malkin?
Mac, and this will speak, and maybe we can go into our next series because we touched on Boston and Washington being a tough series, but this one could match it in terms of the physicality, and that's Tampa Bay and Florida. And this is just to my Malkin point here, Mac. Yeah. When you talk about a guy like Kucherov, getting all my Russians mixed up, being off for 7 months, as talented and how great he is, it's not exactly a light switch. And even for Malkin to get back to the top of his game, he may take half a series or a series to get going again.
The only thing with Malkin is Malkin still has some fire in that belly. That's what I love about Malkin. We've watched his whole career. He's got some fire in him when it comes to the playoffs and when it comes to big games. So I think Malkin will be fine. And like you said, he's well rested. Here's Kucherov's advantage for me is he comes in with Palat and Point as his two winger, as centerman and winger. That is a huge advantage for Kucherov. I mean, they've played together for a long time. Palat is a valuable guy who they may lose in the expansion draft, by the way, because they're going to go 8-1, I think. So they keep their 4 big defensemen. And Palat's a guy that I think they have a chance. And yet Palat, Point, and Kucherov is one of the best lines in the NHL.
Stamkos off for 3-4 weeks. He should be good to go. And then there are some question marks, much like last year going into the bubble about Hedman's ankle. Remember that? Remember that twist that he had? And we're like, how's this guy going to play?
Yeah.
Oh, not only does he play, he wins a Conn Smythe.
Oh, well, that's going to be look. And then let's not forget, you got Stamkos coming in with Cirelli and Killorn. That's a really good second line. And then you go to Gord's line with Coleman and maybe Goudreau or Colton.
Goudreau won't start, Mac.
He won't start. I know he's out, but Colton is there. They got Joseph. I mean, and they got their big 4 on the back end. And Vasilevsky has been not great, especially in a couple games against the Panthers. But you're right. How does Kucherov and Stamkos come back after the injuries, especially Kucherov? But I think Point and Palat and Cirelli and Killorn certainly will help that.
All right, let's go to your former Florida Panther team. You know, it was all about the chicken wings. Every time you went to go watch a hockey game, it was
is
always
it
about the
not
chicken wings
time?
with you.
Is it not time that I lose my record as the winningest playoff coach in Florida Panther history? Is it not time that somebody else can Joel Quenneville not beat that record?
How is that possible? How is that possible after all these years?
Check the media guide, the winningest coach in playoff history of the Florida Panthers. That's embarrassing. I'm sorry.
That has to change. That has to change.
And I think the next guy behind me is like 15 wins behind me or something. So surely Quenneville, with his $6 million salary, can beat that record. Would you not agree?
I would hope so. I'm praying. But you gotta feel for Panther fans, Mac, because this is probably the best they've felt since 1996.
Yes. So interesting makeup to this team. I mean, look, Zito comes in as a new GM. Dale Talon put a pretty good group together in there. You know, good draft picks. They've added some pieces, but the number one thing, and Dale took a little heat, was the Barkov pick. People love Barkov in his draft year, but there was some question. This guy has finally become a superstar in the league. He's been always a very, very good player since he was a kid, but he's become a superstar. But shocking to me, his wingers are Verhaeghe, who played in Tampa, free agent, and Duclair. That's their number one line. And does that not tell you how good Barkov is?
Yeah.
He's that good.
Verhaeghe had some good success too in Tampa.
Great pickup. But do you believe he'd be a number one winger on the Florida Panthers and they're going into the playoffs against his old team? I wouldn't have believed it.
And the one that's gone to another level too is Huberdeau, with some of the plays that he makes, Mac, the spinoramas, the behind the back, all of it, the creativity. And they've got him going now with Sam Bennett and Owen Tippett.
Good line.
There seems to be a really good 1-2 punch there.
Good line, a real good line. And then where they're better is they go to their third spot, and you got the former first-round pick of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Wenberg, who couldn't play in Columbus, could not play at the end in Columbus. They hated him there. Well, Tortorella did. He's got a long list. And Hornquist is back and healthy and ready to go as their third line with Wenberg and Vertrano from a former pickup from the Bruins. So they have got their top three lines with Hornquist back in the lineup is good. Where I question it, can the back end get it done? Can the back end get it done?
Uyghur, Yendel,
Orsling,
Gudas,
Nuttavari.
That's got to be by committee.
I know. And then goalie Bob goalie Bob, we know how good he is. He's a $10 million goaltender. And if he doesn't win this series, goalie Bob has been horrible in the playoffs in Columbus. What's goalie Bob going to do this year in the playoffs? Because they will not hesitate to go to Drigger. They will not hesitate. So goalie Bob, I mean, he and Vasilevsky, who are you betting on?
Yeah.
And Vasilevsky hasn't been great lately.
The goaltending and the blue line, how do you not just completely check it off to Tampa Bay until you're proven otherwise? Until you find out that health is an issue with McDonough or Hedman. Right. Yeah. Then Vasilevsky, is he hiding an injury the last little while, Mac? What's dropped him off a little bit? But until you actually see it for your own eyes, how do you not go Tampa Bay in this series?
Well, you got to go Tampa Bay because of what you just said. Now, if Hedman stumbles and is hurt, and Goudreau doesn't come back, and Stamkos and Kucherov can't find their timing, then you say, well, Florida has it. I mean, look, Florida has a chance. They've played them damn hard, and Florida is excited. I think Quenneville, somebody said to me the other day, Quenneville was not into it last year, did not do a great job last year. But Joel's back to his old Joel, you know?
He's He's got a better team because his players are better. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you like? Tampa 7?
I'm picking Tampa in 6.
6. Okay, I'll take
And
Tampa in
I
7.
really, you know what, I'd kind of like to be wrong because I'd really like at least Joel to get a little closer to my record.
Okay,
you have some cushion there, bro. No one's even close. You're 13-14, and the second most winningest is 0-4. So you got a couple years at least, I think, bro.
Wow. They better beat Tampa Bay. That's all I could say.
Embarrassing.
Or else I got to listen to you. Go on.
You burnt me out today. I got to run to lunch.
No,
I told you that.
Wait. Mini in Vegas. Let's just touch on
Jesus.
that. Vegas ends on a real sour note, as far as I'm concerned, to end the season. But Mini owns them. They've got the winning record this year of 5-1-2, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
This is going to be like Vegas. Minnesota are not afraid of Vegas physically. That's the one thing they're not afraid of. Foligno has played really tough. Greenway even dropped the gloves the other night.
Yeah.
You know, they have battled them physically. It's the one team that has been able to hang in there physically with the Golden Knights. You know, I mean, that's not Colorado hangs in too because they're so good. So this is going to be a great series. And again, it comes back to health. Pacioretty, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. I love Vegas.
The blue line's good on Vegas too.
Listen, Theodore, Pietrangelo, McNabb, and the guy that's really been a great surprise is Martinez. That was a great pickup by them. I know Pietrangelo and Theodore are good, but Martinez has been unbelievable for them. And that is a good blue line, and they've played better. But I'll tell you what, is it as good a blue line as Minnesota's with Suter, Dumba, Spurgeon, Brodin, and then you got Soucy, who's a tough guy too. Soucy doesn't, and Cole. They're tough guys.
It's the up-tempo play that is going to give Minnie a real chance to win this series, Mac.
And Kaprizov has taken that to a whole nother level for them. Here's the question I have in the series, Nick. Fleury and Leonard versus Talbot and the young kid.
Yes.
Kokkonen. Who is better there? You got to go with Vegas in goal.
Kakkonen had a rough night the other night. So
yeah.
And I'm not to suggest that he couldn't win this series because he's proven that he's a talented guy.
Yeah.
But he's one of many with the lack of experience, and you just wonder in big moments how this kid's going to shine. But Kakkonen has proven that he's worthy of having the opportunity here.
And nobody can underestimate Talbot. He's been a battler, this kid, ever since he came out of Alabama Huntsville. I mean, seriously. New York Rangers signed him. He's been a battler. So the thing that I'm telling you is Minnesota are excited to play Vegas. Not sure Vegas is excited to play Minnesota.
Everything to gain and nothing to lose, Mac.
Right. So Vegas, it would be a devastating first round loss for Vegas. Minnesota would get over it because they're in the middle of a, Guerin has sort of changed the culture there a bit, and Everson has done a really good job. This is a big test for Peter DeBoer too. Let me tell you, this is a series Peter DeBoer as a coach has to win. I
think Vegas is primed to get picked here.
Well,
picked off by Minnesota.
Yeah,
I do. I'm going to take Minnesota in this series.
I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time picking Minnesota. I'm going to say that Fleury and Leonard will be the difference and that they will win the series, but it will be tough. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong.
That doesn't have anything to do with a coaching change to your buddy a few years ago, does it?
I think my buddy is going to do all right with the coaching change. So I don't think I don't think it's going to worry him.
Great segue, because there are some talk that Gerard Gallant had an interview with the Rangers. My understanding is anyways, that hasn't happened, but that will happen before he takes off for the World Championships. Of course, he's head coach of Team Canada. So he just seems to be one of probably 3 or 4. I don't think they're going to go down Babcock's path, Mac. That would be a really hard signing, the first signing of a coach for a guy like Chris Drury. Mike Babcock.
I mean, and let's be honest, Babcock would never leave the University of Saskatchewan to go to the Rangers.
No,
I mean, let's be honest here.
I agree with that. And Tocchet, of course, they'd probably have interest in Tocchet, but the one thing going for Gerard right now, well, 2 things that are going for him is one is he's had the experience of taking the team deep to the Stanley Cup final. And the other one is players talk very highly of him, Mac. And I think there's teams that understand that he isn't your buddy. He's not your friend. He's not a guy to, chum up with you, but he is fair and he is honest. And I think that has resonated with maybe some people internally with the Rangers.
Yeah, I've known him since he was 9 years of age, so I've got a pretty good book on him.
Yeah.
So he'll do fine, and I could give a rat's ass about Las Vegas.
On that note, let's let Doug get out of here, and we'll close up the show after.
Okay,
all
boys.
Right, Mac. Where pickleball?
Thanks.
Where'd you say you're going? Pickleball?
No, I got to meet a couple of guys for lunch, and it was really critical. And I've got a lot of things to do because we're getting ready to pack up and head out on the road. So I'm really, really a busy time for me.
You and Jill ever think about maybe taking out a yacht for $500,000 for a week? Hey.
Oh, those damn I know, because I fight with captains.
Yeah,
I might argue with a lot of people, but I'm not fighting with a pilot or a captain of a boat.
So when Jill drives, do you argue when she's captaining the RV? You keep your mouth shut?
When I'm in the mountains, I'm laying down in the back with a pillow over my head. See you later, boys.
Doug Maclean, everybody. All right, Doug Maclean's out of here. We start playoff Saturday night. Super excited. Jordan, you excited?
Yeah, man. I love playoff hockey. As much as you guys call me a casual and stuff, playoff hockey might be one of my favorite things to watch. And, we have golf going, we have UFC, we have NBA, we have everything. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm excited. Hope you guys are as well.
And the great weather is coming. So grab yourself a little Buddha if you're here in Canada, and we're working on getting it down to the United States. So enjoy the weekend, enjoy Boston and Washington, and we're going to see you here on the Real Kyper at noon show on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.